Hi, I'm Marie Schoeppel of Global Trends and Cycles. I specialize in mundane astrology, which is the astrology of geopolitics. In this video, I'll show you how to use composite charts to forecast the direction of relations between two countries. Just for those of you who are unfamiliar with composite charts, a composite chart is used to interpret the relationship between two entities, whether that be two people, two companies, or two countries. The composite chart is considered a chart of the relationship itself, as distinct from the two entities in the relationship. Many astrologers use composite charts, but I found that not all astrologers are aware of how to use progressions with a composite chart. I'll show you how to calculate a progressed composite chart and how to interpret it. I'll be using the United States and China for this demonstration. One of the first considerations when creating a composite chart is the accuracy of the natal chart data that you have on the two countries. This is a real limitation in mundane astrology, as determining an accurate time, sometimes even a date, is not easy. I use this method when I know I have a valid chart for each country, and by valid, I mean the natal chart consistently proves to work when forecasting events for that country. Let's first calculate the natal composite for the US and China and take a quick look at that, and then we'll calculate and interpret their progressed composite chart. I use these data for the natal charts of the United States and China, which I then use to create their natal composite chart. There are several methods of creating relationship charts, but the composite chart is based upon midpoints. The method calculates the short arc midpoint between the two positions of the same planet or luminary in the entity's charts. For example, if the Sun in entity A's chart is positioned at 7 degrees Gemini, and the Sun in entity B's chart is positioned at 7 degrees Libra, then the Sun in their composite chart will be positioned at 7 degrees Leo. This is the US-China natal composite chart. Please note that this composite chart involves China as it is under the Chinese Communist Party. It does not represent China as a civilization that has existed for thousands of years within the borders of present-day China. There is a trine from Uranus, 21 degrees Gemini, to the midheaven, 24 degrees Libra, with the Sun, 25 degrees Leo at their midpoint, forming sextile angles to each of them, with the Sun in the 8th house of shared financial assets. These two countries were destined to have deeply intermeshed economies, and this interdependence can work quite well, to the benefit and great wealth of both, as long as Uranus in Gemini is handled properly. Another thing about this natal composite, China's natal Mars, 14 degrees 52 minutes Leo, conjoins the composite's 8th house cusp, and the composite moon opposes both. Serious disputes can arise from economic and financial concerns. China's natal Uranus, 4 degrees 58 minutes Cancer, conjoins the composite descendant, with the composite moon, 15 degrees Aquarius, opposing China's natal Mars and natal Pluto, 17 degrees 38 minutes Leo. Sudden financial and economic upsets, as well as threatening aggressive behavior, can quickly turn this relationship from one of shared wealth to one of destruction. The Sun in Leo is at the height of its power, and in the 8th house makes a power struggle almost inevitable if one or both parties sow distrust. Unfortunately, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction introduces suspicion and distrust into this relationship. It's quite powerful, as Neptune, 3 degrees Libra, forms a T-square with the ascendant-descendant axis. The dispute that could spell doom for this relationship may be centered upon the spread of democracy, which is an effect of Neptune. At the end of the day, all the wealth in the world can't cover up ideological and ultimately spiritual differences. I'm going to focus on this Saturn-Neptune conjunction, for as the two natal charts progress, this conjunction in the composite chart becomes closer in orb, in Libra. This technique for calculating a progressed composite chart, which shows the condition of the relationship between two entities for a specific time period, can be used for any sort of relationship, whether between two people or two countries. I learned this technique from a book called Relationship Analysis by Robert Blaschke. I assume that he is the originator of the technique, as he doesn't credit anyone as having taught it to him. This book is probably the best book out there on astrological relationship analysis, and I highly recommend it. I haven't seen anyone else use this technique in mundane astrology, but I find it very useful for forecasting. The technique really is quite simple, at least in this modern age of computer-generated charts at the click of a mouse. First, determine the date to use to progress the natal charts of the two countries. How do you do that? Do you choose the date of some important event that could have long-term consequences? Or do you look at astrological phenomena? I combine these two approaches by first researching important events between the two countries, and then by checking the astrological configurations that were forming near the dates of those events. Sometimes the date to use is not so apparent. And when using this technique for two countries, you need to be well versed in their histories and also their current politics. Xi Jinping became General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party on November 15, 2012. He became president on March 14, 2013. Looking at transits for November 15, 2012, we see that Neptune, 0 degrees Pisces, forms a T-square with the nodes, 26 degrees Scorpio Taurus. This position of the nodes forms an almost exact T-square with the U.S. natal moon, 26 degrees 58 minutes Aquarius. And November 13th, 2012 was a total solar eclipse at 21 degrees 56 minutes Scorpio. I'm going to use the date and time of this total solar eclipse to calculate a progressed composite chart for the U.S. and China, as Xi's rise to power has definitely changed the tone of China's development, and that is partially responsible for the deteriorating relationship between the two countries. I'm using secondary progressions, by the way, but you can use other types of progression. Once you have selected the date for the progression, you just progress the chart for entity A to that date, then you progress the chart for entity B to that date, and then you use these two progressed charts as the basis for the composite chart. And you have your progressed composite chart. The progressed composite for the U.S. and China for this solar eclipse has a triple conjunction in Libra of Mars, Saturn, and Neptune. Mars, 4 degrees 9 minutes Libra, Neptune, 6 degrees 29 minutes Libra, and Saturn, 10 degrees 59 minutes Libra. It lies in the 4th house of security, ancestry, and the past. This indicates that the tone of past relations between the two countries, when Mao was alive, and the U.S. did not interact much with China and both were hostile to each other, could reemerge under Xi's rule. The prevailing characteristic of any Saturn-Neptune conjunction, regardless of sign, is suspicion, and this usually takes the form of authority becoming suspicious and repressive towards those who could be regarded as unusual or not conforming to the professed ideology of the authority involved. Saturn-Neptune conjunctions also highlight the spread of news, gossip, propaganda, and disease. They are also associated with the striving towards democracy by those who are denied voting rights or who live under authoritarian regimes. Another major theme of Saturn-Neptune conjunctions is surrender due to deteriorating circumstances that can no longer be ignored. Thus, this conjunction can often indicate serious conflict, and it can indicate naval superiority for a country. The Libra stellium conjoins China's natal sun, 7 degrees 46 minutes Libra, especially Neptune. Thus, relations between the U.S. and China under Xi Jinping affect China much more deeply than the U.S. The Libra stellium indicates that both sides are engaging in a show of power, how powerful they are, as compared to the other party. But as composite Neptune conjoins China's natal sun, China is manufacturing an illusion of itself as a strong power. Yes, it truly is a strong power, but there's a lot of propaganda being fed to the people to make China's position look much stronger than it is. There's evidence of this by looking at upcoming transits to China's natal chart also, but I won't get into that now, as this video is focused on progressed composite charts. This progressed composite also has a configuration of the Sun, Uranus, and the midheaven, similar to the natal composite. Here, the Sun, 24 degrees Capricorn, is sextile the midheaven, 23 degrees Pisces, same as with the natal composite. But the Sun is in conjunct Uranus, 20 degrees Gemini, and Uranus is square the midheaven. The second and eighth houses are again involved, for Leo's Sun rules the second house, and Aquarius, Uranus, Saturn rules the eighth house. Now Uranus in Gemini is not being managed so well. Complementary economic interests have morphed into anxious competition. However, Uranus is sextile Jupiter, 22 degrees Aries, and Jupiter is co-ruler of the Pisces midheaven. This has helped preserve the motivation to work together to preserve a prosperous status quo. But Neptune is the other co-ruler of Pisces, and its position in the triple conjunction is slowly spreading distrust in the relationship. The triple conjunction is in the fourth house. Territorial security is the most important factor in these countries' relationship. Saturn is exalted in Libra. It represents the authority of elders, and thus the established global power framework that the U.S. still controls is a powerful constraint on how these countries react to each other. Both sides seem to want to respect the status quo, but with compressed composite Mars so near progressed composite Saturn, that tete-a-tete could fall by the wayside. This triple conjunction is an interesting example of how you must observe the limits of composite charts. A composite chart is not a map of the heavens for a particular date and location. It is a synthetic chart composed of midpoint positions. Note that none of the positions in a composite chart are ever retrograde. However, the positions in the charts used to calculate the composite do have retrograding planets. So, although it looks as if Mars is moving to conjoin Saturn in the progressed composite, the two planets' positions in that chart are really moving farther apart. That is because Mars and Saturn in the U.S. progressed chart are retrograde, but Mars and Saturn in China's progressed chart are in direct motion. As progressed Mars is moving retrograde faster than progressed Saturn is moving retrograde for the U.S. chart, the midpoints they form with China's progressed Mars and Saturn, are moving farther apart. Thus, it is essential to study the underlying charts used to form the progressed composite chart, so you get an accurate sense of how the progressed composite positions will change over time. But compressed composite Mars and progressed composite Neptune are moving to conjoin. That occurs in 2026-2027. This progressed composite is for February 20th, 2026, the date of the transiting Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees 45 minutes Aries. Progressed composite Mars is at 6 degrees 8 minutes Libra, and Neptune is at 6 degrees 27 minutes Libra. As Mars with Neptune can mean aggression on the high seas, this progressed composite has some worrying indications. Note that Mars and Neptune are in the third house of neighbors, and the transiting Saturn-Neptune conjunction will be sextile the progressed composite Moon at 0 degrees 11 minutes Aquarius and Mercury 1 degree Aquarius. The sextile aspect also has correspondences to the third house. Cancer Moon rules the ascendant. An incident involving allies of either country, which are in close proximity or share borders with either the U.S. or China, could result in aggression. Note also that progressed composite Mars and Neptune are within 1 degree orb of China's natal Sun, 7 degrees Libra. The Sun represents the leader of the country. Xi Jinping, who secured another 5-year term of leadership in 2022, will still be ruling China in 2026. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this video inspires you to learn more about mundane astrology. Please check out my videos on my YouTube channel, Global Trends and Cycles. Bye for now.